Hi, everyone. Welcome to our final concert of the SUNY Schenectady Summer Music Series. Tonight's concert features four of our current students, our first-year students, playing. They'll be performing works by Chopin, Debussy, Rachmaninoff, and Gershwin, all pianists. And tonight, Henry Zelenak joins us. He's playing the Chopin Nocturne in F minor, but you might also recognize his name at the end of each of our programs as the audio engineer. And I thought we might spend a little bit of time into the production side of these concerts, which are not easy. They take a lot of time, a lot of careful work, a lot of knowledge. And I thought I would show our viewers some of the views that we've had for our performers. I'm going to just share the screen here. And let's see. So, Henry, I wonder if you could describe this setup. We've both been a couple of roadies, I think, for this program, right? Setting up mics and things. So there looks like there are two mics set up in this the first on the left and then the second over here on the right. What kind of mics are they, and why the setup?
So these mics are small diaphragm condensers, which are very good at taking in a wide harmonic range and high differences in sound pressure from very quiet to very loud, which is what a piano produces. It has a great dynamic range.
Right.
They are in a spaced pair configuration, which is the best for a piano harp because it's very wide and it does have quite a large range. So having one over the high strings and having one microphone over the low strings is typically the best way to capture a grand piano, or a baby grand in this case. You do have to worry about phase interactions. There is a measurement that must be done between the mics and then from the distance of the mic diaphragm to the source of the sound, which of course is the actual strings themselves underneath the lid, as you can see in the screenshot.
Right.
You set up these mics and you did a pretty good job.
I was lucky, I think. Here's another of this. This is in our studio. And this is Matt, who's will be playing tonight's Rachmaninoff. What we saw earlier was Will playing the Gershwin Preludes. Here's the top mic. I think the other mic is out of the picture, but it is over the bass strings.
Yes, so the mic placement in this one is also very good. There's a few things to consider when miking a piano. Putting the microphones closer to the hammers gives you more attack sound. It also gives you more pedal sound, so you have to be, watch for that when you're doing your sound check. Putting it farther back makes it away from the hammers, away from the keyboard, makes it a more mellow sound, and that can be preferable in some cases as well. So there's a lot that goes into just the mic placement, not to mention all the post-production techniques.
Right, we'll get into that in 1 second. Let's take a look at what we had to do with, let's see, this was in the studio again where we had voice and piano. And I think I mentioned earlier that we needed to be safely distanced. So here, Bobby, you can see him. He's in the isolation booth while I'm playing. I'm using earphones, and Bobby has earphones on so that we can hear each other. And you had to, Henry, you had to set that up as well, because without that, we would not be able to perform together. We just couldn't hear what we were doing.
Exactly. Those doors on that drum booth are very thick, and if Bobby were to try to listen to your piano through the doors, he would get very little of the sound. And of course,
Right.
That was necessary to prevent, because we're not wearing masks in performance. So it was necessary to prevent, contagion. So,
Right.
I did have to set up a hearback mix, is what it's called, which sends the audio from each of the recording channels back through this amplifier, headphone amplifier, to couple of hearback stations, which are little mixers in and of themselves, and then you can adjust how much you hear of yourself, how much you hear of the other performer, et cetera, et cetera. And
Right,
that
we were working on that too, and it was actually quite wonderful to be able to hear. I heard Bobby perfectly, and you were able to give me a little reverb at the same time. Uh, let's take a look at.
Yeah, those hearback mixes can almost be nicer than live.
The real thing. Don't say that. No, okay. So, and this is Aurelie, and you've got a couple of mics for her. Why is that?
So Aurelie was singing the pieces that she sang last week in last week's concert. There was a sort of a wide variety of pieces, and the range of the pieces went from a pretty low soprano, almost like a mezzo soprano range, up to a higher soprano, which Aurelie is an excellent singer and can sing all those pieces. But I had to make sure I could capture accurately all of that range and have a concise audio image for each piece. So I have two microphones. The bottom one with the pop filter is a large diaphragm condenser microphone, which is the primary microphone that was picking up the vocals and the enunciation that was coming straight out of her mouth into the microphone. Mm-hmm. The higher microphone is AKG. It's also a condenser microphone, but small diaphragm, and it has no pop filter because it's pointing down from the top. And what that does is it allows you to get a vocal sound that has less of a lip noise, less sibilance, less nose breathing noises. And it was sort of a backup, but it also helped to fill out the sound, as I was able to pan each one of these mics slightly offset from each other, so it would have a bit of a stereo image in post-production.
Well, so, and that's the thing. Now we get to, I guess, even the difficult part. It's one thing to create, to set up these mics correctly, and to choose the correct mic, and then to hit record. But what is that? That's about 10% of it now, and then now your job really begins, right?
After we're finished tracking in the studio, which may include multiple takes of the same piece, I have to go into post-production and figure out which takes we're going to use. We all sit in the studio with our masks on together, listening through each take, choosing which take, and then it's up to me to aggregate those takes into their individual pieces, produce each piece. Each piece might need different equalization.
Right, because you're dealing with how many mics all together that you're trying to. What is that process called? It's called mixing, or
mixing is the name of the process that I had to go through with the audio. Okay. Basically, it's just adjusting, in the most basic sense of the word, it's adjusting levels from one instrument to the next, from one microphone to the next. But there are other things that go into it, like adding reverb, or perhaps equalizing the sound to remove unnecessary noise, which I did have to do for a couple of the songs. Right. And then just a mastering process, which I wasn't able to do very much of because of the tight production schedule, but that's basically just making sure each piece sounds similar to the next, so that people aren't having to adjust their volume or adjust on their end. It should be a very uniform experience across each piece.
Yeah, and I guess I want to emphasize that the work, obviously the work of performing, of learning your work takes years and years of practice. But at the same time, the work that we do with audio and video production, it takes as much time to learn, and then as many hours to put together. Finally, I guess I always like to show this last picture. I'll share the screen for this super quick. And so this is the video side of the production, which Aurelie did. We had a great program that was able to sync all of the audio and video cams together, and we were able to use what we call a multicam production with this. So you see what the audio looks like here when we get this into the video production side, and then we have 3 different camera angles, which we choose as we go along. So, um, without this program, we wouldn't get the different camera angles. We wouldn't get the audio to sync up quite so easily. So, anyway, I think we definitely need to. Have some kudos for Henry, for Relly, for putting this production together. It just wouldn't have worked without you two.
And yourself as the director, of course, holding it all together. Director and production supervisor, very important job as well.
It was my pleasure. I learned a lot, and
as did I.
Yeah. So let's talk about Chopin. The piece that you're performing tonight is a Chopin Nocturne. Can you tell us about the form or the idea? What is a nocturne, and where did it come from?
So a nocturne is it translates to night music or a night song, and it typically is generally a calm piece of music for solo piano. The form was created by John Fields in the mid to late 1700s. And of course, Chopin was influenced by John Fields when he wrote this particular nocturne and the various others that he wrote. This is from Opus 55, which has only 2 nocturnes in it. That's the entire opus, is just Nocturne number 15 and then number 16, I believe. Mm-hmm. So Opus 55, number 1 and number 2. This is the F minor, and it's a very dark piece. It's one of his darkest nocturnes. It's very somber at the beginning, very slow. It's a very slow andante pace.
Yeah, let
me
circles play around. A little bit, for
Absolutely.
You of that. Yeah, because I agree. It's let's see if I can start it.
So you'll hear it circling around a C note of C and F between the 2 hands.
It has this on top, and with this bass. Point out too, it has a kind of a walking bass line. It almost sounds like a blues piece to me when I hear it. I think the chord also to watch out for is this one here. I'll point it out when I play it. This chord, which is so exotic in this piece, it's based on G flat major, and in music theory we would call it a Neapolitan chord.
The Neapolitan, yes, and there's also German 6 as well, yes, and he plays with those ideas.
It'll show up later on.
And I agree with the blues idea as well, and this is right around the time when blues as a music itself, 1840s, is when this piece was written. Blues as a music itself, as a genre, was sort of circulating around, not in the mainstream by any means, but you're certainly right that the blues inflection is there.
Right, and every night song seems to have a storm, and does this have one as well?
This absolutely has one. So the piece is in ternary form, ABA. So it starts with the A section, which you were just playing the theme from. And then it goes into a B section, which is più mosso, which is faster, more agitated. And it comes in with these heavy triplets, which is sort of a motivic fate telling you, you're not going to escape from this F minor that you began with. and
it's
it's just
intense, right? Yeah.
it's very intense.
Let me give you some of it. Whoopsies. Yeah.
That's
And
the beginning of the B section, the middle section, the storm, and it is very intense. It's sort of a low, dark, rumbling growl, and then you have these high, stressed out, sort of worried chords above that that repeats a few times, and then you go into a more flowing section, which accelerates and gets more and more intense as you go through until it ends with a descending cadenza in the right hand and a chorale, and the chorale is just amazing at the end of the B section. It perfectly rounds out the B section. It cycles through dominance and prolongs the dominant and just prolongs this cadence till the end where it finally cadences on a fermata, and then it returns to the A section again with the main theme.
right.
So overall, very
And
well-rounded
that
piece.
return represents the calm after the storm.
The calm after the storm,
Yeah.
and there's a calm before the storm. So it's sort of bookended.
Right. And I do want to pick up that chord again that we heard at the beginning, because Chopin doesn't just introduce something and that's exotic and not kind of take care of it towards the end or show you the reason why. And so we have a variation of the beginning, but the melody. And then here's the chord that we heard at the beginning of the piece, and he introduces it this way. And he uses this chord to help us get there as well. But then he takes that same chord to F minor. So that particular chord had a dual use, and it takes us to F minor. And I'm sorry, I have the wrong camera on, but finally, Henry, F minor, yes, but then it doesn't end in F minor, does he?
No, it's an interrupted cadence after the coda, and it ends in F major, which
Right.
is sort of the ultimate ending to this piece, as it's been in F minor the entire time with some modulations. But at the end, it sort of interrupts itself and goes into this F major chord at the end with extended arpeggios, broken arpeggios,
Right.
ascending up the range in the right hand.
Oh yes, those are amazing. Etc. Etc. Yeah, it's. I mean, Bach used to do that all the time. He would end. He would end on a major chord when he was in minor. That term we call Picardy third, but it was important for Bach because the music when it was in minor was rather I don't want to say depressing, but emotionally difficult. And so to end in major is a kind of a hopeful sign. And I think Chopin is doing the same here. It's very heavenly when you hear the closing after all of this commotion beforehand, to hear this beautiful major ending.
And then finally, at the very end, he ends with another chorale in F major, cycling from the dominant to the tonic in F major, and it just closes out the piece perfectly. Really solidifying the F major, and that chorale as well as the one at the end of the B section sort of make the piece for me. I enjoyed playing through those chorales a lot.
Yeah, you played it really beautiful, and you'll hear that in a few minutes. Well, Henry, thank you so much. Thank you for performing tonight, and thank you for all the work you did putting this program together, this series. That's it for us, and look for us in the fall. We'll bring you some more concerts. And until then, enjoy tonight's concert.